Welcome back to the Cinema Club. My name is Christopher Amick, and I will be your host for today's episode. The Cinema Club is like a book club, but for movies. Every episode, Nick Leach or myself invite one member of the Cinema Club to be a co-host for the episode who will choose the movie or television show and join Nick or myself on the podcast to talk about the film or episode. Today we are covering a TV miniseries, Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion is set in the present-day MCU. Fury learns of a clandestine invasion of Earth by a faction of shape-shifting Skrulls, and Fury joins his allies, and together they must race against time to thwart an imminent Skrull invasion and save humanity. With all that being said, let's get into it.
That invasion is here, Rhodey. And we can't even tell who the invaders are.
Fury, why haven't you called any of your special friends?
This war is one I have to fight.
Living on the edge to the end of our lives. Roof in the sheepskin telling me lies.
Alone.
This world is burning, and it was you who lit the match.
TikTok, Nick. This is personal.
You're the most wanted man on the planet.
Well, Mama always said I was special.
Marvel Studios' Secret Invasion, only on Disney+.
And just to be completely clear before we get any further, I did want to give a big spoiler warning because we are going to be talking about anything and everything about the show. Now, a few months ago when I heard about this show coming out, I had one person that came to mind that I really wanted to try and get on the podcast to be covering this with me, and that would be Jesse. So I'm really glad that Jesse was open to doing this for the next few weeks. And thank you so much for being here, Jesse. What's making you interested in discussing and jumping into Secret Invasion today?
Well, I am a longtime Marvel lover. My dad took me to see Iron Man for my 12th birthday, so
Oh,
the
wow.
Avengers have been with me through most of my formative years and have always been important to me. I am Team Cap all the way and always will be. And Civil War is actually how I met my husband because he is Team Iron Man, and we argued over it on the internet, as people do. So, yeah, Marvel is my thing, and I love it so much. I'm not like a crazy expert or anything, but I do love it. So I'm very excited to journey with this show and see what they've got in store for us because it looks like it'll be quite the shift from some of the other things we've seen as of late. So I am very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one too. Just from even the trailers that we've been, seeing come out the last few months, the tone seems a little bit different than a lot of the other Disney or even Marvel, shows that we've been watching the last,
Mhm.
I don't know, few years now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm
I'd
excited
say
for
the
something hopefully
closest thing
different.
is like Winter Soldier, but that's literally been since like 2014. So it's been a hot second.
Yeah, I dug that movie a lot because it is different. It's not as jokey as,
Mhm,
some
mhm.
of,
It's not
today's
as
Marvel.
lighthearted. Yeah,
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 that's a
yeah,
good way to
yeah.
put it. Yeah, yeah. Has some darker tones going on. But yeah, with that said, let's go ahead and dive into it here. So the episode starts out in Moscow. Agent Everett Ross is having a secret meeting with Agent Prescott that presents to him the idea, a conspiracy theory, that all major terrorist incidents are connected to a single source, Skrulls, that have been assimilating themselves quietly among humanity for the past 30 years. Prescott reminds Ross that Fury and Captain Marvel promised Skrulls a new planet, and Fury failed to deliver on his promise, and now Skrulls are getting restless. Prescott shows Ross that Skrulls are planning to start an all-out war between Russians and Americans, and shows him the plans involving a dirty bomb and terrorist attack. Prescott also urges Ross that Fury should be summoned back to Earth. Ross doesn't seem to take Prescott's warnings and rants seriously, but he promises to take this information to Fury, who is currently stationed at Saber. Prescott eventually figures out that something doesn't add up and attacks Ross violently, choking him with nearby wires. Ross shoots Prescott and escapes with valuable info. On the streets, he is chased by Talos and eventually intercepted by Maria Hill. Ross falls down from a great height, leading to lethal injuries. Talos reveals to Hill that Ross was a Skrull all this time, as Ross's corpse assumes his natural shape, that of a Skrull. Talos then urges Hill to contact Fury and summons him back to Earth ASAP.
Yeah. So something I got a little nerded out with there at the beginning, with Prescott's beginning monologue, it's very similar to something one of the Skrulls said in the comics. And if you're
Okay.
interested, I'm going to read it to you because it's like similar but different enough, but both are super impactful. So it says, in a war, in a fight, you have to be able to trust the one next to you. They need to trust each other, the Avengers, and now they can't. Up is down, black is white. Friends are enemies. And with that comes pause. Imagine wanting to fight for or just hold the one you love, and yet not knowing if it's really them. Imagine the mistrust, the jealousy, the fear. Now times it by 1,000. Imagine the madness.
Ooh, I got
And
chills.
right. And his delivery of that beginning monologue, that actor, the way he said everything, he sounds like a narrator. Like he doesn't sound like he's gonna be a character and then all of a sudden he is, and he's like actually talking to Ross, and you're like, wow, your delivery was real good on that guy. Good for you.
Yeah, that's one of the notes I made while I was watching, and I was like, "Whoa, I love his voice." And I know I had messaged you about it, but did you watch the first few minutes that they
I
released
did.
online?
I did.
Okay,
I did. I did.
okay, yeah, like just even like watching that, I was like, "Whoa, this is gonna be good."
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
watching that, ever since they had announced Secret Invasion, I was like, okay, who's most likely to be a Skrull? Because in the comics, this was a big event. This event actually took place pretty quickly following Civil War. So
oh,
they were
okay,
already kind of mistrusting each other. So the Skrulls were, let's take advantage of that and like just build off of it. But anyways, so I was like, okay, who's most likely to be a Skrull? And I did have Ross down as like my like I feel like they're gonna make him be a Skrull because he's like a main enough character that like, oh, we care if he's a Skrull or not,
mhm,
but he's also not main enough for us to like completely lose our minds if we find out he's a Skrull. And like he could have been a Skrull, like they could have infiltrated him at any time following his like injury in Black Panther 1. So
oh
I
right,
felt like it
yes,
could happen. And then when I saw that clip that you sent me, like after they did the whole like scavenger hunt thing, I was like, oh, I feel like something's not great with this. And sure enough, yep,
here
here's
we
a
are.
scroll. Here we are.
I really liked that reveal that Martin Freeman's character, Agent Everett Ross. I really liked that. We're getting this chase, and I guess like at least me as a viewer, I'm still kind of figuring out what's going on. Because he's getting chased by this Russian who's actually Talos,
Yeah.
and then what I really liked with like the cinematography, I guess, along with the music, is that as they're running up those
Girls,
stairs, the lights and then the beat of the music is just like on point with that camera tracking upward. Like I thought that was so cool.
it was my favorite part of the entire episode. I was like, oh,
That's sealed the deal. Like, okay, I'm gonna watch this show.
exactly.
But yeah, it was kind of cool. Like immediately, at least for me, like getting hooked into this story because I haven't read the comics, but the aspect of the scrolls has been really interesting to me since we got to see a few movies with them, but especially in Spider-Man when Nick Fury isn't actually Nick Fury. That was just like a whole like mind thing for me. But it's cool that we get this setup right away where there's two very different groups of scrolls, and I think that was really important to distinguish right away for us. So at least we know. I don't know if everybody else is aware of that, in this in this universe. But I thought that was really cool just to kind of find out right away. And I loved like Nick Fury's entrance with the spaceship dropping him off. Like that was pretty
Yeah.
dope. I was like, oh
Yeah.
hey, like I'm back.
The outline is kind of like alien like in the light, and then he comes out. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Something that I was going to ask you about, Jesse, and I think it'd be cool, like if anybody's listening to this and they have an opinion on this as well. But when I was looking into this slash scrolling through Twitter, you know, I hadn't realized that Secret Invasion used AI art for
Oh
its
yeah.
opening credit sequence. It's definitely creepy and weird looking. So like on that level, it kind of does work for me. But at the same time, it also seems like cheap. And I know Twitter was like overall not happy about this decision.
Yeah. I have two warring opinions.
Okay.
On one hand, like the whole time I was watching it, I was like, this makes me so uncomfy. I hate it so much. Like it's just creepy.
Yeah.
Which is what it's supposed to do.
Mhm.
So it succeeded. And I was like, why is it so creepy? Why does everything look just a little bit off? And then it's like, oh, because I was watching it with Max and he was like,
Yeah.
do you think they did this with AI? And I was like, nah, there's no way, bro. And I was like, wait a second. Maybe there is a way. And so we looked it up and it did do it with AI. And I was like, okay, if they did it on purpose because of that, because they wanted it to be creepy and be off and have that non-human touch,
Mhm. Mhm.
okay, great. But if they didn't have that thought at all and like they just did it just to see if they could and how it would go over, bad. Bad idea. Bad idea. Cause like, so I have a bunch of random hobbies and interests, right? And like one thing right now, I like make costumes and like cosplay and stuff.
Right.
And in
Yes.
the like professional costuming community, like the people that are like making the costumes for, Hollywood and stuff, they are losing out on commissions and they are like having a ton of customers super mad at them because customers will bring them an image made by AI of like a dress or like some fancy avant-garde like couture whatever
Mhm.
and say, "Can you make this for me?" And they're like, "That's actually impossible. Like the construction of that is
Interesting.
unrealistic and like you can't do that." So like I'm seeing as far as, like, writers go, writers are losing out on jobs, like, I'm a playwright myself, and so, like, people are literally losing out on jobs because so many people can just use AI for things.
Well, we have the
So
writer's
I
strike going on right now
oh,
too.
yeah, yeah, so I'm a huge but viewers won't know this, I'm a huge, like, Broadway fan, like, musical theater lover. And all of the Tony Awards this year, like, the writers are on strike, so it was non-scripted, they didn't have, like, their opening, like, performance usually has, like, a song and, like, a fun thing, they just did dancing this year, like, it's affecting everything and it's everywhere, and what is AI doing? What is AI doing?
Right. Like, how's it operating in this space? Right.
Yeah, yeah, and now we're seeing it for the first time, like, actually moving forward with a big, like, Hollywood name, like, this is Marvel. We'll see. We'll see what that means.
I share a lot of your same viewpoints on it because it's like, oh, okay, maybe if it's a one-time thing, maybe that's all
Yeah,
right. But it's like,
yeah.
oh, with Ahsoka coming out later this year, if they're gonna do AI for that too, what's kind of going on, So I know,
I
like,
hope they don't.
I know, like it kind of works for this show, at least for me personally. But
Right. That's why I
there,
say, if they did it on purpose, great, because it was uncomfy. It was
yes,
unsettling, but I loved it. I loved it. I thought the opening credits was stunning.
oh yeah, yeah. But at the same time, like, oh, I don't want to be like watching something maybe that's like taking away jobs from passionate artists, like you were kind of saying. Obviously, like there's a VFX company and there's human designers and there's humans working with AI on this. It's not like
Mhm.
it's completely AI that just showed up and dumped this and Marvel's like, okay, cool, let's plug it in. That's not what's happening, obviously, but it definitely is taking away at least some jobs when it comes
Mhm.
to, like
Mhm.
you said, like artists and them being able to get commissions or just work in general.
Mhm. Mhm. So the first shot, I'm a little bit sad because I had written it down because I was really excited. The very first shot of Everett Ross standing in like that tunnel,
Yeah.
when I was watching it on my TV, the lighting cast on his face looked green. And so then the whole rest of the show, I was like paying attention to all of these green things. There's so much green
There's a lot of
lighting.
green.
There's so much green. Like there's like green tiles in the background. There's like green. There's a lot of green. And so I'm like, oh, does the green mean something? Is it foreshadowing that these different characters or whatever? And I mean, that one turned out to be true. He did turn out to be a scroll. So I was like, yay. But then I was watching it on my phone and it did not look green. It looked yellow. And I was like, oh no, all that green stuff that I saw on my TV, is it really not green? But anyways, besides the point. But
What
if
color
they
is
did it on
that green?
purpose, great. If they did the green on purpose, love it. Who knows?
No, yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I hadn't really like put that together. So I'll definitely be looking out for that in episode 2.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
like, yeah. So like in the comics, one of the ways you can tell that a scroll is a scroll
Okay.
is like for a second in like one of the, because like you know how comics are in like panels, right? And like they're
Yes.
like little squares. So like in a little square, all of a sudden you'll see someone's eyes like glint green, and you're like, oh no, they're a scroll. So that's when I was like hyper like aware of all the green. I was like, does the green mean something? Are they scrolls? Because I really want it like to be everything is crazy and like
Easter
you
eggs everywhere.
truly don't. Yeah, exactly. You truly don't know who is going to be a scroll and who isn't. And they're kind of doing that. So I hope we stay with the momentum and like it just creates absolute and utter chaos.
Well, I was with the eyes thing. I was kind of looking out for something similar because I'm like, oh wait, are their eyes like different in their human form? But I don't think they are. I think I was just looking for
Yeah.
something that wasn't there.
Right.
'Cause, yeah, like I'm trying to figure it out
this
too.
whole thing. I'm like, so there was not there. Yeah.
I thought it was making it fun though, as viewers,
Mhm.
is it's something different. And yeah, we're just trying to figure it out ahead of time before it actually like jumps out at us.
Yeah.
Fury and Talos are finally reunited. Talos implies that Soren is dead, and Fury is seemingly heartbroken. There are also much bigger problems to deal with as Gravik has gone missing. He is behind the Rebel Skrull organization that aims to plunge humanity into war in an attempt to take over the Earth and claim it for the Skrulls. Talos' daughter, Gaia, is likewise missing, something that shocks Fury as well. Talos also reveals that Gravik is most likely hiding somewhere in Russia, at the site of some abandoned nuclear power plants, since Skrulls are immune to radiation. Most of those sites are secret, so they don't have any idea of where to start. Talos has been kicked off of the Skrull Council, and Gravik monopolized the fact that Fury left them to replace Talos. After analyzing the data recovered from Ross's corpse, they discover that Gravik plans on utilizing a radical movement called AAR, Americans Against Russia, to stage a terrorist attack and kick off the war. They plan on creating a dirty bomb with the materials recovered from the weapon cache in Kazakhstan. Fury is overwhelmed by all this information, and he goes on a walk despite Hill and Talos suggesting otherwise. At the same time, Agent Rhodey reveals to Ritson that both Hill and Fury are missing from the official surveillance and that Fury is most likely back on Earth. I thought that this episode did a really nice job of presenting a lot of information to us as an audience member in digestible, succinct, but understandable tidbits.
Agreed. There was a lot. There was a lot going on in this first episode, but it was very watchable. Like it wasn't like some of the shows like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like I felt a little lost through a lot of the show because it felt like there was a lot that they were trying to do, but also a lot they weren't telling us. This one, everything is clear unless they're purposefully making it not clear.
Right.
And they're doing well in the writing, in how they're portraying everything. It's going well so far.
Yeah. I mean, even like just reading that synopsis paragraph, I was like, wow, like a lot of
It's a
stuff is
lot.
going down. Yeah. Because we're
Mhm.
getting Fury back in. What I liked about it is that we're kind of getting caught up with Fury as an audience. So it kind of makes it more digestible, but we're also seeing, Fury kind of work through those things as well. I think it's really interesting just from like a political aspect that the show is, diving into a little bit kind of Russia, America stuff going on, because obviously not on this level, but we have some stuff going on. I think
Yeah.
it's really interesting that
Strained a little bit.
yeah, strained relationships. That's a good way to put it. I think it's really interesting that we're kind of going in that avenue
Mhm.
instead of a made up place on
Right.
Earth, like some of the other Marvel stories have taken place. I'm like, hey, we're in Moscow, we're in Kazakhstan.
Mhm.
So on that point, I think it's really cool. Also, I really liked that it's kind of like thrown out there really quick, but I wanted to make sure we talked about it a little bit. The scrolls can live in places that humans cannot since they're not affected by radiation. I was like, whoa, that's a really cool way to living in the worlds that the Marvel Universe does, where they have all this crazy technology they have access to. They're still not sure where the scrolls are because they're in these pockets of radiation where
We can't
normal
go.
people can go. Yeah, yeah. I thought that was actually like really smart. I don't know if that's something that's in the comics at all.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
It's already so different from the comics. Like the
Okay.
comics, there were so many scrolls, and it was like I said, it took place right after Civil War. So we've got like 3 different Avenger groups, and it's
Mm,
all of them that are like each of them have been infiltrated with a couple different scrolls. So it's like right now, this show feels very zoomed in and kind
okay.
of grounded, and it's like agents more that are like being affected, and it's like secret operatives.
Yeah.
We're not seeing any of our heroes yet. We're not seeing any like world leaders. Like there's this whole panel in I think issue number 4 of the series. This whole panel where all of these like world leaders and like main personalities like Steve Jobs and Stephen Colbert and Paris Hilton and Oprah, they're all coming out and they're like going on their shows or on their you know, in front of assemblies or whatever, and they're all saying like this same scroll message, and you
Oh,
realize, oh, they're all scrolls. Like they're all a part of this. Because in the comics, it's a religious faction of scrolls that are doing this because
oh,
in
okay.
their religious text, it has told them that this earth has been promised to them, basically. So they're just like zealots going after it. And so then they all reveal themselves, like all of these heavy hitters, like these world leaders, like Barack Obama and John McCain were also in that panel. Like they were also scrolls. So like
Wow.
all over the world, all of these people are all of a sudden like, oh, we're all scrolls and we've all been like infiltrating you this whole time. And so it was like a much bigger, like zoomed out event right now, at least in episode 1, where I feel like we're pretty zoomed in on like Fury and his story with the scroll. So yeah, it's already different.
Yeah, and we I guess a bit later on, but we kind of find out there's about 100 Skrull agents out, in the
Hmm.
field, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that it hasn't like taken over everything, but something that I was suspicious about is I think potentially Agent Rhodey might be a Skrull.
I agree.
You think so? Okay,
I
okay.
want him to okay, for one, he was super antagonistic in that one scene. Like, in
Mhm.
that one scene, he's like, "Oh, they've gone AWOL." I'm like, "Bro, you've been friends with for how long? You can't just, like, call them up and, like, have a conversation with them and be like, 'So what's going on? Do you need any help? Can I help you?'" Like, none of that is going on. He just goes right to the president, reports them, and says, "Oh, this is a bad thing. They've gone AWOL.
Right.
We need to do something about them." I don't know. It seems out of character. It seems antagonistic. If he doesn't turn out to be a scroll, I get that, like, maybe he's different now because of Civil War, because of Endgame, because of losing Tony.
Yeah.
Maybe he has a completely different role in whatever this new Phase 5 is gonna be. But, like, he's a scroll. He's a scroll. If he is not a scroll by the end of this, I will be surprised.
Well, yeah, and kinda connected to that too, we get a glimpse of the president, and
Mhm.
Harrison Ford is gonna be the president in the future in the
Yep.
Marvel Universe. So, I'm guessing something may happen to the president in this
Yep.
show as well,
Yep.
potentially. Maybe
Yep.
not,
I agree. I
but,
agree.
thought that was interesting that they decided to show us that even for, like, 15 seconds.
Right, right. That just short little clip. Also, I loved the like pan up with them going across all the different presidents of the past
Oh, yeah,
because
up
it's
up the
like,
stairwell?
are yes. are any of them Skrulls? Were any of them Skrulls? Is this president gonna be a Skrull? What's happening? I know I'm reading into a lot of things. Directors make choices, okay? They make choices. And sometimes they mean things.
Well, I am having fun with this show because of that aspect of it, right? Because me and my wife both really liked WandaVision
Oh,
because of that aspect.
it is my favorite. It is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, because you're like trying to figure out what the hell's going on. You like can't
Uh-huh.
wait for the next episode the following week. And I feel like, at least on some levels, I'm getting a semi similar experience watching this show. It's obviously different, but
Mhm,
still trying to figure out what's going on. And it
mhm.
has that whole Scrolls aspect to it, which is fun.
Yeah, yeah. I also really like this whole like, oh, they can survive in these nuclear sites thing
Mhm.
because I really like when shows, movies, media, whatever, portray situations in which if we just could communicate or sit down and talk, things could be worked out. But it never goes that way because I mean, in real life, we all stink at communicating. Like humans are humans. And so if we get offended, if we get upset, if we get fired up, we're less likely to just sit down and like try to come to a compromise because here we have all of these sites that we could all like cohabitate because we can be like, hey, of course you can have all of this. You can even have some land surrounding the
Sure.
nuclear sites. Like we can all like thrive together. But instead we're going the way of it's all or nothing and it's my way or the highway. And I just
Absolutes. Yeah.
love
Yeah.
little things like that because often in movies and shows I'm like watching the characters and I'm like, just talk. Just if you just talk, you might like this whole war or argument, usually it's more of an argument because it's like between two characters, so it's like
Mhm.
less, world impacting. But it's like if you just talk, maybe, things could get worked out instead of just assuming and going off of emotion and hunches. But in all reality, do I do that? Do I communicate or do I get angry or sad or hurt and I hole myself up or whatever? So fair, fair.
That's true. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So during his walk, Fury is kidnapped by goons sent by Special Agent Sonya Falsworth. He is brought to her lavish apartment as she questions him regarding the upcoming Skrull crisis. Fury uses a moment of distraction to plant a surveillance device onto the owl figurine. Fury asks Sonya what is in the warehouse in Kazakhstan, but Sonya answers that if he doesn't know by now, he is not ready to take on this operation. She also comments that Fury has changed and is too emotionally scarred and old to take on this task.
Dang. What a hit.
It's a common hit. Common
Yeah.
hit in this show. Everyone's
Yeah.
like, bro, you're too
They're going
old.
hard on him. They're going hard
Why are
on
you here?
him.
I do think it's interesting kind of seeing old man Fury.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, well, not obviously, I am assuming that by the end of this show that Fury's going to be back, baby. Because
Yeah.
we've seen trailers for future items that he's in where he looks a bit more cleaned up. He's back on Saber. He doesn't have the beanie and big old
Yeah.
beard going,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think he's limping around. But in the meantime, it really is interesting perspective, I guess, because we've seen Fury, we've experienced Fury, like you said, like since like 12 years old, and now we're in our
Yeah.
20s. And so this character has been around for a while, and even interacting with the Skrulls, like Fury's, been doing that for like 30 plus years at this point in his lifetime. So that aspect I think is really interesting, and I'm enjoying that we're getting to explore that a little bit in the show.
Mhm, mhm. That's another thing I love. I love about Marvel, but I just love about movies and shows in general is when they tackle like these issues of like, yes, something big happened in our life, and yes, it does affect us. That's
Yeah,
why I loved WandaVision. I loved like what they did with Thor and with Iron Man all the way back in Iron Man 3. They take these characters and yes, for most of their careers as superheroes, like they're lighthearted, they're goofy, they're like kick ass, take names, but they have these things that rock them. And now we're getting to see that with Fury, and it's deep. And we don't exactly know what happened to him. We can assume. I mean, the blip was traumatic for everyone. What happened after the blip was very traumatic for everyone. He lost two good, long time friends and colleagues. Like, makes sense that he'd be going through it. But
Right.
he himself hasn't even expanded upon what exactly is wrong with him. Everybody around him just knows he's different. And so us getting to be along on this like self-discovery journey where hopefully he'll get back to like a good place is, I think it's going to be fun. And I think it'll be impactful because usually when they tackle these things in these movies and shows, it is.
Yeah. I mean, even Thor's journey, you know,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't like the latest movie, he's dealing with a lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so are the Guardians of the Galaxy in their most recent movie. Like, I really enjoy the.
Rocket.
Oh, so good. So good. Love that movie. But like that human element, right, is really interesting to tackle. And I'm glad that, at least in this show, they are tackling that kind of more in depth with the blip, because
Mhm.
it kind of seems like, okay, the snap happened, we lost some people, we got people back, and all right, moving on, right? It's not like we've really dived into that, I think, emotionally. So I'm interested to see if they do, in the next 5 episodes, decide to explore that a little bit more with Fury's
Mhm.
character.
Mhm.
Because it is very interesting to me, at least.
Yeah, I'm so down for it. So down.
Yeah. In this kind of sequence of events, I enjoyed that Fury was, going on this walk on purpose to get picked up. And, even though nobody thinks he still has it, he's
He's still making
planting
the moves.
devices onto an owl head, like,
Yeah, yeah. He knows what he's doing.
yeah. Yeah. I think that was good for the audience too, a little bit, because even I'm like, yeah, does Fury still have it? I mean, I can barely walk around.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. Cool. So 312 kilometers southwest of Moscow, at the abandoned nuclear site, Gravik, Gia, and the rest of the Skrull rebels have founded their own small commune that gathers displaced Skrulls. The settlement is called New Skrullos and serves as a center of operations for the upcoming war. Skrulls grow their own food there, native to their home world. A young Skrull under the name Beto approaches Gia, and she immediately recruits him for the cause. She gives him a tour of the complex, including the fracking pods where the victims of Skrull identity theft are being kept while Skrulls assume their identities. Even though Gravik was supposed to be in charge of the operation, a shadowy figure can be seen overseeing the whole thing from above.
Yeah. I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say, on the fracking pods, I rewatched Captain Marvel in preparation for this too, since like that's the introductions of Scrolls. So
Yes.
they use the fracking pods in Captain Marvel too. They use it on her, but she's upside down in the fracking pod, like
Okay.
on Talos's ship. So it makes me wonder if they had to do that because she was more powerful than the average human, or if these are just different models, or what's going on there. But yeah, her fracking pod was upside down. Just fun little fact.
That's interesting. I mean, to be totally transparent, I haven't seen that movie since it was out in theaters, but I think I legit watched it 5 times in the movie theater, and I haven't seen
Yeah.
it since. So that's that's good that you refreshed on it, because I was like, wait, I was getting caught up in a couple little places.
Right, right. And I don't know if this is the place for it, but I'm gonna say it anyways.
Yeah.
So something that's bothered me on this episode is everybody's so mad at Fury for not keeping his promise of like helping them find a new world, like a new home. But in Captain Marvel, it wasn't Fury who promised that. It was Carol. And at the end of Captain Marvel, that's why she leaves Earth. She literally leaves with the Skrulls, like, because you know how they find the like refugee ship, right?
Yes,
She leaves with that refugee ship so that they can all go find a new home.
that's right.
And presumably, like, she hasn't been back on Earth that whole time until Fury calls her as the blip is happening. So presumably that whole time she was out there helping them find a home. So are we supposed to believe that whole 30 years she didn't find them a home? And so now they're just pissed. Like now they're just so mad. But like then why is everybody mad at Fury? Just because he was associated with her? Just because he kind of also like backdoor promised them off? Like he was in the room when she promised that? Like, I don't know. Everybody's so mad at him. And I'm like, I don't feel like that anger is justified. Be mad at Carol.
That's a really valid point that I hadn't realized because I, haven't watched this movie since it came out forever ago. But yeah, that is true. I mean, maybe Carol's having a hard time. There's a lot of planets out there, but it's hard to find ideal ones. Well, I guess they are okay with their radiation. So I don't know what's going on.
Right. I don't know either. I don't know. I don't know what she was doing for those 30 years if not that. Hey, man. I don't know where that refugee ship went.
Right. Like, did they end up coming back and just
I
got
guess.
dumped on Earth? Is that what?
I guess. Maybe
happened?
maybe we're supposed to read between the lines and that's why they're mad at Fury because they did come back to Earth empty-handed and he's like, okay, well, just chill here for a while and we'll see what we can do for you.
And then he
Maybe.
hasn't done anything. He's just been hanging out on Saber. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Like you were kind of mentioning, Jesse, like the whole process where they're taking over the identities of people was really quick. I was like, wow, that was a fast process. Like, that was kind of scary. It was like a 20-second process. Like, all right, I'm done.
ready to go out to the world, convince everybody, be very convincing. Yeah.
I also was super excited when I heard that Emilia Clarke was going to be in the show. I love Emilia Clarke.
Mhm.
Mother Dragons, of course. It is kind of wild to me that she seems younger in every single thing I see her in. I'm like,
Oh, right? Like,
what?
do not age? But
Right,
okay.
right. Like, what is happening?
She looks like she's like a 20-year-old in this. Like, she just looks like she's like a young, fight for the cause, rebel, not like a fully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe she's supposed to be, honestly.
Yeah,
'cause,
exactly.
got the whole dynamic with her dad, I guess. But no, I'm really enjoying her as Gaia so far
Mhm.
in the show. So I was hyped to see her. And then, yeah, we did have that little hint there with that shadowy figure overseeing the whole process from above. Definitely some interesting foreshadowing, I think, going on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what they do with all of this.
Yeah, because I mean, what's his name? The character that's leading them all, in charge of the whole compound, everything. I'm blanking his name right now. Dang
Wow,
it.
me too. I just had it and now it's gone.
Anyway, like he's definitely presented as the guy who's leading this whole secret invasion. But I definitely think it's interesting that we get that hint that that's really not the case.
Mhm.
So I'm definitely hoping that we get to explore that a little bit more soon rather than later. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, here's episode 6 and the last 10 minutes we get to find out who it is. Like, I definitely want to hopefully explore
right.
that shadowy figure
Yeah.
at least midway through the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So surveillance that Fury planted on Sonia's apartment turned out to be useful as Fury, Hill, and Talos get possible clues on who could provide the Skull Rebels with the bomb. The best lead they have is Visely, who owns a high-end art gallery, but is actually a former rebel who now works for the Skrulls. At the same time, back at New Skrullos, Gia is tasked with retrieving the bomb from Vasily. She's given money and directions on what to do. Gia manages to reach him first and gives him the money. She escapes with the bombs, but not before Maria Hill notices her and starts shadowing him. Fury and Talos eventually reach him, who plays dumb and coy with them. Fury gives him 2 chances to tell the truth, but he decides to lie, which leads to an all-out conflict between him and Talos, after which he is killed by Fury and revealed to be a Skrull himself. At the same time, Maria is shadowing. Is it Gaia? I've been saying Gia.
Yeah, it's Gaia.
Yeah. At the same time, Maria is shadowing Gaia and follows her to a metro system where the two engage in a brief fight during which Hill is overpowered. Luckily, Talos arrives to help and discovers that Hill has been fighting with his own daughter, Gaia. Talos tries to talk Gaia out of delivering the bombs, but there is too much anger bubbling under the surface. Talos eventually reveals to Gaia that Soren, her mother, is dead, and the Skrull rebels are, in some way, directly responsible for it. Gaia was unaware of her mother's death And even though she still escapes from Talos aiming to deliver the bombs, her trust in the cause is shaken. That was a lot.
Indeed. The scene with Talos fighting the other guy and then him being like, "No, this is my fight. I told you no." And then
Yeah.
Fury has to kill him. And then well, Talos's delivery of that line when he's like over the body of like, "I told you no," broke my heart. I was so sad for him. I was like, this guy, ever since Captain Marvel, like even in Captain Marvel, he's just trying to do his best to like keep all the scrolls together,
Right.
keep them safe. But he's also a scroll who's like totally okay with humans and like with anyone who wants to help. And he's like, I don't want there to be any blood on our hands. Like there's is a peaceful way to do this. And I think that goes back to what I was saying before about like the whole, oh, they can survive in the nuclear areas. Like if both sides just let him, he could be the person that can help organize them and get them all the help they need and keep them safe and healthy and happy. But instead, he's being seen by his own people as the enemy
Yeah.
and probably even a little bit by us because even though he's on our side per se, he still is different. Like he still is one of them. So he's like this in between character. Like he's like this roamer without a home, but he's still good. He's the moral good, the moral baseline, the moral ground of this whole thing. And it's just so sad. And his wife is gone, and I feel so bad for him. Like he finally found her after years and years and years of searching for her. He finally finds her in Captain Marvel, gets, 20, 30 years with her, and now she's gone. I mean, at least he got those 20, 30 years, but their lifespans are really long. So it's really sad.
Yeah, I definitely feel for him because like you're saying, he's viewed as a traitor by his own people. He lost his wife because of his own people, and now his own daughter, Gia, you love me,
Guy.
Gaia, very actively out in the field working against his efforts. And I just really enjoyed the whole dynamic between father and daughter, working on opposite sides of the scroll groups.
Mm.
Really interesting to me, and I'm excited to kind of explore that a little bit further in the show. But
Mhm.
yeah, I did think it was sad because he tells Fury, I told him not to do that.
Mhm.
But I also liked how when Fury is kind of questioning that character, that he says something along the lines of, everybody gets like one line, but you don't
Yeah.
get two. I was like, oh, I like that. That's good.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And then he tells the one line, he's like, see, that was one. Are we gonna make it two? Like,
Yeah. I thought that was really well done in that sequence, but I also really enjoyed, I wish it was longer, the brief fight between Hill and Gaia, kind of
mhm.
in that like the substation. I don't even know what that
Yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever that was.
Mhm.
Somewhere under
So dark.
something.
Everything's so dark in this show. Like, what's going on? That was really cool. I was like, oh, I wish that would have lasted like another 30 seconds, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. Got a couple more shots in there. Yeah.
Yeah. But really, really enjoyed that aspect. It was interesting to me that it seems like, Gaia's been missing for quite a while of time just
Mhm.
because, she didn't know that her mother was dead and hasn't been in
Yeah.
contact with her dad for a while. So it does kind of make me wonder, like, oh, like how long has this been kind of going on with these two different groups of scrolls as
Mhm.
well?
Mhm. Something else I'm wondering about now that we're talking about it. She's bitter and mad, right? That nothing
Mhm.
has happened since 30 years ago in Captain Marvel. Monica Rambeau in WandaVision is also super mad at Carol. So maybe when I was talking about before, why are they so mad at Fury? Maybe something did happen in the years between that we aren't privy to as audience members yet. And maybe this series will explore it, or maybe they'll keep trying to like string us along for that and it won't get answered till the Marvels, but whatever. But both of those characters, because they meet as little girls in Captain Marvel, and they're like friends as these little girls. And now they're both harboring a very similar like frustration towards these characters. So maybe something that we don't know did happen. And hopefully we'll see that either now or in November.
I want it this month. But,
Right, exactly.
Because like you said, Jesse, it does really seem like it's an important aspect of the story.
Mhm.
Unless we're really missing something
Right.
that happened. I don't know. So following the whole affair with the dirty bomb, Hill and Fury are in a bar, and Fury comments that he managed to stop the Cold War from turning hot by mixing with the locals and buying their favors. Hill is skeptical about this and in no mood to entertain Fury's notion of living on Old Glory. Hill comments on how Fury is not ready for what's coming. The snap changed him, and that he is nowhere near the top of his abilities. The old Fury that she used to know before he went no contact for several years was always 3 steps ahead, and this new Fury is not, which is something that will lead to a lot of people eventually getting hurt. And boy, does it. That was some major foreshadowing.
Yeah. It's so, oh man, it's so sad. And like, I feel for him because it sucks to have all of these people around you tell you you're broken.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm not who I was before, like who you used to know, but this is me now. And they're like going at him hard. And I think a lot of them are well meaning. Like, I think Hill is honestly like, I don't want you to get hurt or like
Right,
you be the
right.
cause of other people getting hurt. This could be dangerous. But it still sucks to hear. Like, it's never fun to be on the receiving end of that, and people are just going at him hard. Poor Fury. Especially when he was like so on top. Like he was like celebrity of espionage and action and whatever.
Well, yeah, he put together the Avengers. Like,
Yeah, like
you know.
you're literally the reason superheroes basically even exist, because even if they existed before the Avengers or would exist without the Avengers, nobody would really know that they did exist, because the only reason, at least in the MCU, that we know heroes exist is because of the Avengers.
Right, like Bruce Banner was like out
Yeah.
out there hiding basically
Yeah,
before
exactly.
the Avengers. Yeah.
Like there were
No.
these little things that would happen and people would be like, what is this? But nobody knew. And now we have this like super team that like we can put a name and a face to. And that happened because of one person.
Right. And yeah, you do feel for him because, he's reminiscing about the glory days and how he was so influential and, the Cold War, those times. And Hill's kind of like, hey, like, we got shit to do here. Like, we can't be reminiscing about the old glory days. We got real issues to focus on, and your head's not in the game.
Yeah, you're not present.
Yeah. Again, I'm really enjoying the aspect of this show that it's not all jokes and it's not all action, right? Like, we have a lot of like human moments where like, oh, we're just hanging out in a bar. We're not saving the galaxy or
Right.
It's not huge scale stuff, which I'm appreciating so far in this show.
So I know I'm reading into a lot of different things, but I feel justified just because of this bar scene where there's this dude who just randomly talks to him and it should be not a big deal. But when that dude talked to him and I'm watching it, I'm like, something's with that dude. Like, this is not a normal person. This is like, why did that exchange even happen? It seemed purposeful and it seemed like enough out of place that we were supposed to pay attention to it, but enough in place that we also could just completely ignore it. And then it gets paid off in the end when, what is his name? The bad guy is shape-shifting from the little girl with the ball to the guy in the bar to this other lady he saw like macking on a dude in the dark. I'm like, okay, so this was purposeful. This dude was there for a reason. He actually
I missed it.
This dude watching him. Yeah, so the little girl, right before he gets picked up to go to the MI6 whatever.
Yes, I saw that one. I
Yeah,
saw the
okay, that
girl
one.
smooching on the other guy. I missed
Yeah,
the bar guy though.
yeah. The bar guy, because he's like looking at himself in the mirror above the bar, and the guy like makes some comment about like how he'll never be who he was, or like who he's seeing in the mirror or whatever. And I'm like,
Okay.
why even have this dude say a line to him?
Interesting. No, I
Like,
completely missed that.
yeah, yeah. And then it got paid off. So I feel like me looking into things is all right because it turns out these things were something.
I'm glad that I brought up the bar scene though, then because I was like, oh, not a whole lot happened there. But then
Yeah.
as you've pointed out, like, oh yeah, some major stuff was actually happening.
Right under the surface.
Right, right. Because yeah, like I said, I completely missed that scroll
Yeah.
scene happening there. I gotta rewatch the episode now, I guess.
Right. Exactly.
Back at New Scrolos, Gaia delivers the bombs, but she says that she was approached by a stranger and maybe they should postpone the operation. Pegon refuses and explains that they were given good bait. Later that same day, Gaia meets her father, Talos, and explains that the bombing will happen at the celebration of Union Day. She will mark the bags with bombs with infrared coloring so they know which bags to target. 3 skulls will carry bombs, and all target points will be near the square during the reunion day. Talos thanks her and tells her that her mother would be proud. This is interesting to me because we're just getting to know Gaia, but I'm interested to see, as the show continues on, like where she actually ends up when it comes to picking a side to be on, because we already are kind of seeing some hesitancy here from Gaia,
Mhm.
after she has that interaction with her dad. And then she is like, hey, I'm going to mark these bombs with, infrared paint so you know what's what. And then, that aspect of her dad telling her that her mom would be really proud was also interesting. But then as we kind of continue on, it's like, oh, was she actually helping them or not?
Yeah. That's what I want to know. What do you think? Because I honestly have no idea. Like, I'm like, did she do that and she didn't know that they were empty and she was hoping that they could stay on it? Or, I mean, they were on her back, so you would think she would know that they were empty. Like, "Oh, these
Right.
don't feel heavy at all." So was it just a trap? Like, did she directly betray her dad? I don't know. I have no idea what's going on.
That's a good question. I think that Gaia did because it's like the most obvious thing ever.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this was like Lion King leading Mufasa down to his
Right.
death, obvious. Like
Right,
to
right,
me at least.
exactly.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was like, oh yeah, Gaia's definitely like pulling something here. And then when it
Right,
turns out that the bags were just a distraction from the actual bombs, it's like, oh yeah, she definitely betrayed them. But that was my takeaway. I mean,
right.
I think we'll
Because
find out for
the
sure
whole
soon.
conversation yeah, and the whole conversation between them before the actual, like, bomb stuff happens, where
Mhm.
she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna mark the bags," it seemed too easy, like, it seemed too, "Oh, we had one conversation before and I found out my mom died, and so now I'm, like, just completely switching sides." It felt a little too easy, but yeah.
And yeah, at the same time though, we as an audience are shown that she does have some hesitancy about
Right.
going through with the bombing. So that's
Mhm.
again, that's where it's kind of like, oh, like,
Yeah, because
is she
she's
a
like,
double
"Maybe we should
agent?
hold
Like,
off." Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm really interested to kind of see how, again, how her character plays out. Like for me, like she's the most interesting character that we've been introduced to in the
Mhm.
show so far, personally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm hoping is that she's just someone who truly does want the best for the scrolls. She just wants to find a home and she's just trying to do the right thing, whatever side that is. So far, I feel like that's what I'm getting from her. I'm not getting anything too extreme yet,
Right.
but
Right.
we'll see. The bomb was a little crazy. It was dark. Literally, okay, well, you're gonna get to the bomb scene. Then I'll talk about it. Then I'll
No,
talk
I'll
about it.
read it right now. I'll read it right now. So, reunion day has come, and the celebration is in full motion as Fury Hill and Talos canvass the area full of people in order to identify the bombs. Talos tells Fury that bombs will be marked with infrared spray. Fury gets visuals on the bombs, and they start tracking them. Fury is in the meantime distracted by a girl with a rainbow ball, who's obviously a Skrull. As Gaia mentioned, they have at least 100 operatives in the field. Fury walks around the square and notices that too many people are noticing him. Most likely, all of them are Skrulls, which means that the secret invasion has indeed taken place while no one noticed. One of the agents throws his backpack at Hill, and she catches it, but discovers that the bags are decoys. Gravik enters the scene and detonates the bombs. That's what his name is, Gravik.
There we go.
Yes, detonates the bombs, creating chaos all around as hundreds of people are either dead or heavily injured. Fury goes to face Gravik, but Gravik escapes. Somehow, Gravik finds himself near Maria Hill and shoots her in the stomach while being shapeshifted into Nick Fury. The real Nick Fury notices that Hill is on the ground and sees that she has been shot. Hill comments, "It was you," but Fury denies this, knowing that Skrulls have taken his place. Fury holds Maria as she dies, while Gravik escapes. He is seemingly reminded of one of their last conversations where she told him that someone was going to get hurt. Okay, now we can dive into it.
Okay. First of all, I hate that they killed her off, seemingly.
I knew you were.
I was legit hoping that, like, the last final frame before they cut to the credits was her, like, transitioning green. And so it wasn't gonna be the real Hill, but it was. At least it appears so. She's bleeding red. She's, whatever. I'm sad. She has been here a long time, but I'm also glad they had the balls to do it.
Because Marvel doesn't usually.
Yeah, like, I wanted this to have a lot of repercussions. As much as I love Marvel and, like, it is my happy place, sometimes I feel like they don't make those decisions because they want to obviously keep using these characters and keep it more light and keep it more, like, hopeful. But
I
they
want to keep
did it.
selling toys. Yeah.
Exactly. They did it. And lately, I've been feeling like all of these movies that I thought were going to have huge repercussions and, like, mean a lot in the MCU did not. And I've been so disappointed because I go into these movies and these shows and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I'm talking to my husband beforehand and I'm like, this is going to blow your mind because they're going to do this and this. And they're like, this is going to mean a lot. And, like, this is going to determine, like, the phases moving forward. And then they don't. And they just kind of, like, put it out there.
Pop
and it's
out.
just like, oh, this was a complete standalone. Like, it wasn't really anything. And so this series was in danger for me of being one of those where it was just going to be like this, oh, little romp with Nick Fury. And, like, it really doesn't matter. But in that last show, boy, did it matter. At least to fans. Like, I don't think a lot of the heroes necessarily are going to be like, oh man, Maria Hill, like, she's been helping us out forever. Like, they might, like, be like, well, that really sucks. But, like, for us fans, at least, like, she's been in a lot. She's been here since the Avengers movies. She's been here since 2012. So this hurt. But also, aside from the loss of Maria Hill, just in that scene with the bombs in general, that was dark. Good on
Marvel,
them.
too.
Like, that was
For Disney.
dramatic, I feel like. Because there's this shot, I don't remember if it's Talos, Fury, or Hill, but one of them is, like, standing in front of, like, one of the, like, festival, like, things that's going on, and it's like this tent of performers. They're literally, like, performing this cool Russian dance. It's screams. Like, oh, they really did that. Like, they really blew up that tent that we just are seeing these performers, like, dancing in. You know that those performers did not, like, they didn't show the performers getting blown apart, but they showed the tent, they showed the performers performing in the tent, and then they showed the tent getting blown up. So it's like, okay, you can put two and two together that those dancers probably are not okay right now. That was dark. That was dark, man.
Well, like, I was thinking about it, like, oh, like most Disney Plus shows, like, if I had like an 11-year-old or something, like, oh yeah, they can watch it with me.
Right.
But I was like, oh, I was kind of thinking about it, like maybe not this
Hmm.
show. It is like real like life and death situation here. Cause I kind of going into it, I was like, oh, okay, well, they're gonna stop the bombing because I guess they sprayed the backpacks.
Right,
you know?
right, exactly. Yep.
So I was happy that I guess they decided to like actually make it like real world stakes here. Like, oh, this is a secret
Mhm.
invasion. It's happening. They're setting up so their group to take the fall for this mass killing,
Mhm.
happening at this festival with innocent people.
Mhm. And I think they did a good job in the setting of it because it's like this really happy, fun festival.
Yeah.
Like, and it literally looks like a 4th of July celebration. Like, they have the same colors as us. Like, there's red, white, and blue everywhere. There's literally people dance to like music in their cool, like, national dress. And not even that is safe. Like, yeah. Because I feel like in the MCU also, whenever we see these things happen, because like obviously bad things happen when battles happen, but it's usually like buildings we're seeing get blown up, more corporate kind of things getting blown up,
Yeah.
where like we don't really see the people it's happening to necessarily. We just know that there must be people involved. This one felt a little bit more intimate. Like, we were literally in the festival, seeing all these cool things happening in the background, seeing people, like, smiling and having fun, and it just, like, gets blown up, like, just completely. I was like, "Oh, okay. It's not Falcon and the Winter Soldier dude smashing the shield, like, decapitating someone with the shield there. That was dark, but
Yeah.
it's its own it's its own kinda dark."
It's true. And something I was thinking about while watching it is at least not with all Disney shows, but too many of them lately. It's been like, oh, look at this huge group of people. Like in Mandalorian, like, oh, this whole planet. And there's like, 60 people there. Like this was like this is a
Right.
huge square full of people. It felt like very real
Mhm.
and impactful, I guess,
Uh-huh.
is how I would put it. Cause it's like, oh, there are like a few hundred people in this square that are being impacted by this event.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I was just gonna comment that I really thought the little girl slash scroll thing was like creepy AF. Like
Oh, yeah.
I was like, ooh.
Terrifying. It was so unsettling.
Heebie
I don't know
jeebies right
why
there.
exactly. I don't know why, like, the children, like, horror trope is always so scary, but it is. Every time.
Yeah, it works. It works. I'm glad they're leading into some of that. And then the scroll disguised as Nick Fury was good. Like in that moment with everything going on, like I didn't see it coming and sadly neither did Maria Hill. And
Yeah,
I
nope.
always enjoyed her character, honestly. So I'll definitely miss her if that is, the end of her
What
character, which I
happened?
think it
Yeah,
is. Yeah. I mean, I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
like you said, it's kind of good that they're really starting off episode one with, hey, this is a serious life and death situation here that we're dealing with.
Mm,
So hopefully, like the show will take that and build off of that with that direction moving forward.
mhm. When she said it was you, do you think she really thought it was him, or do you think she was telling him like, it was someone like, it was a scroll being you? Like, it was you, a person that looked like you? Or do you really think her last thought was she straight up got betrayed?
Oh man, I haven't even thought about that. I was taking it as either she was really confused and did think it was Fury, potentially. But she's not dumb though either. I don't there's that part of me where it's like, oh well, she's not stupid. Like
I know.
she knows what's
I
kind of
would
going
just
on. So I don't think it was
I would just
her
be
saying
so
that,
sad
was
if
it?
that was her last, like, realization. Like, it that's so sad.
Now that I'm thinking about it, it probably was like I'm just telling him like it was you. Watch out. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
That is like effed up to think about though. Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah. Well, on that dark note, no.
Goodbye, everyone.
Did you have any other like last thoughts about the episode or what you're hoping to see like moving forward?
I hope it gets bigger. Like, I hope it goes global, which I think it is gonna, like, because that's the whole point. They want to start
Right.
a global conflict. Cause I enjoy this, like, zoomed in look, sometimes me knowing things ahead of time is to my detriment. Like sometimes me knowing what happened in the comics going into something isn't great because I expect like, oh shoot, things are going down and then they don't. And I'm like, wait. So I want it to be big because the comic event was big. I want all of these world leaders to come out and like, oh, we're scrolls. Like you find out that like they've been infiltrating all of these different governments. Like I want it to be that insane. But at the same time, I also am enjoying like, oh, it's smaller scale, it's personal. Because right now it feels
Right.
personal. Like it
Yes.
feels like it's a Fury thing. Like he made this mess, now he has to clean it up. So either way it goes, I think I'll be happy. We'll see. We'll see where they take it.
Yeah, because even if it is a little bit smaller scale, where like, oh, it's like, officials working for the president, and maybe it's not the president himself, that
Yeah.
would be really interesting still to see that infiltration of Secret Wars happening,
Mhm.
even if it is on a more smaller scale, because there are like around 90 some Skrulls out in the fields currently. So yeah, I am interested to see how it goes. I was thinking about this too, as we reviewed the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus show. And like
Mhm.
episode 1, I was like, man, I am here for this. This show's gonna be awesome.
Mhm.
It didn't exactly pan out that way for me personally with the rest
Yeah.
of the show. And that has been the case with quite a few of the Marvel and Star
The
Wars
Star
Disney Plus
Wars.
shows.
Mhm.
So I'm really hoping that this one keeps just building off of what we saw, and that
Yes.
the
It
next couple
keeps its
episodes are really
momentum.
good.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And I was enjoying the runtime of this one too.
Yes.
It wasn't like a 35-minute episode. Like it really was
Mhm.
like, oh, a solid like around 45, 50-minute episode, which
Mhm.
was nice. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that trend continues as well.
Me too. Me too. I am a person whenever somebody complains that like, oh, this Marvel movie or that Marvel movie is 3 hours long, I'm like, bring it on. We're paying $15 a ticket. Why would you not want a 3 hour movie? Like, I don't want to pay $15 for a 2 hour movie. No. Bring on
My
bring
money's worth
on
here.
as much time as possible. Yes.
As long as it's well done, I'm here for it. Give me
Mhm.
the runtime.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Well, awesome. With that all being said, if anybody has any suspicions on who the shadowy figure is in New Scrollos, let us know. But otherwise, we will see you guys next week in episode 2 of Secret
Woo.
Invasion.
Be careful who you trust.
I also wanted to share that if you haven't already, please go ahead and join us on the Cinema Club Facebook group. That is facebook.com/groups/the Cinema Club TCC. And please listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. And also, please leave us a review on iTunes. If you are interested in joining me or Nick in the future on an episode of the podcast, feel free to message me or Nick on Facebook. And I did want to finally share as well that we are completely supported by you, our listeners. So if you are loving the show and are feeling generous, please consider clicking the support button on our website. You can check our website out at podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/a cinema club. But thanks again so much, and we will see you next week for episode 2 of Secret Invasion.